everybody. Welcome back to the news desk. Maria hanging out with Eduardo and Rich here, and it's time for one of my favorite segments on coverage, the Draft Round Table.
I thought you were going to say it was the bingo.
Oh, the bingo. No, Draft Round Table.
Okay, we'll do that then.
So this morning, of course, we had our feature pod over in the feature match area. Let's take a look at who was sitting at our pod. And what we're going to do is go around the circle here and look at the first 3 picks from all of these players and then take a look at their final deck. So you can kind of play along at home and find out if people were in the right seats, were they drafting the right colors for their seat, or they kind of had a train wreck on their hands. So the first player we're going to start with, Orno Hoke Miller. Let's take a look at his pack 1, pick 1, and then find out if you would make the same decisions that he made as we go around. All right, so here is the pack that he cracked here at day 2, Mythic Championship IV. What did he take? 1, 2, 3, boop. There it is, Grave Shifter, the only black card in the pack. All right, pretty good card. Moving on to pick number 2. Let's find out what Arno took here. And it was Answered Prayers. Answered Prayers. Okay, so following up with a white card. Next up, what does he pick here? It's none other than Thundering Djinn. So we're kind of a little bit all over the place. Let's take a look at his final deck here. Well, he ended up going white-black with a bunch of Wall of 1,000 cuts. Eduardo, what do you think about this? I know he was not happy.
Yeah, he ended up drafting black-white mid-range, and he mentioned like he wasn't quite focused. When I saw the draft, you know, in pick 1 there was another black card with Mob.
There was. Okay.
Yeah, but Grave Shifter and Mob, they're both excellent black cards. One thing I'd say about this draft is there was a pick when I was watching this draft, I think it was pack free, pick free, where he could have taken another Splicer skill, or I can't remember the other card that was taken. It wasn't very noteworthy. It might have been something like an Enduring Sliver when he already had access to tons of 2-drops. Maybe it wasn't that, but I thought that that was potentially not the right pick. I thought a Splice, because he had picking up 2 Defiles. Oh no, it was an irregular cohort, and he had picking up 2 Defiles. So with 2 Defiles, you kind of want many swamps. And the second Splicer skills goes well with 2 Defiles because then for 5 mana, you kill a creature, make a free, and that creates a late game engine that this mid-range deck would have loved to have.
All right, so let's talk about the record that this deck had, and certainly not very good for a player who is undefeated, the lone 8-0 in the building coming into this morning. He ended up with an 0-2-1, so he had a draw.
Yeah, not good at all for Arno Hockmiller. And, I mean, he kind of knew it as well. He wasn't happy. So, next round the table, let's take a look at that for you. And second round the table is Edgar Magiesh. So, let's take a look at his first 3 picks. He's going to open up this pack here. Plenty to choose from. Is a Smoke Shroud? Maybe what are we going to see? No, we're going to go for the Ingenious Infiltrator. Then we go to pick number 2, and a nice short clean stab into black, it's Mob. And then pick number 3, we're going to see top right, it's going to be the Changeling Outcast. So that looks like it sets us up pretty solidly for blue-black. Let's see what the final deck looks like. It is indeed very much blue-black. He liked pick 1 and pack 1 and pack 3, Eduardo. Obviously double Ingenious Infiltrator there. Very happy with that.
Yeah, this is a very solid blue-black Ninjas deck. There doesn't seem to be many 2-drops, but actually you have 2 Infiltrators with a few 1-drops. This is really solid. I guess you'd like a Moonblade Shinobi, cards like that, but honestly, this is pretty decent.
Yep, so no need to help me, Moonblade Shinobi. 2-1 was the outcome for Edgar Magiesh.
All right, well, let's continue our journey around the table and take a look at who is next. And we're taking a look at Christian Hauck. Christian Hauck from the MPL. Let's take a look at what he opened up this morning. He sat down. This is what he cracked open. And in the end, he took a good removal spell in Defile. Let's look at his next pick here. So starting out with the black card, he follows it up with another one there. Ozra Smoke Shaper was the card he chose after that, so we definitely have a plan. Let's take a look at his third pick. Here you go. What would you take? String of Disappearances is what Christian Hauck took. So what did he end up with? Sweet Blue-Black Ninjas? Okay. Blue-Green. Blue-Green. 2 Abominable Tree Folks, which is really awesome. A couple of Frost Wallas. What do you think, Eduardo?
I think Christian navigated well in that draft by identifying that Ninjas was not open and kind of got out of it into this blue-green deck.
I've got to say, though, 4 Iceberg Cancricks.
Well, they were coming pretty late, and yeah, it's a bit of a shame we don't see the number of snow-covered lands here, since that's important. But if you haven't been with us this morning, there were a ton of those in the draft, especially Pack 2. Forests and islands, snow-covered, were going really late around the table.
Well, this deck, in the end, didn't really work out for him. Only went 1 and 2.
Yeah, so he navigated away from the blue-black, ended up blue-green. Now, the next seat round is Christian Calcano in seat number 4, came into the draft at 7-1. And he described his deck as a disaster that he kind of managed to navigate out of partially. Let's take a look at his first 3 picks. We're going to kick things off top in the middle there with Spring Bloom Druid. Then we move on to pick number 2, and this time it's going to be third from the left. It's Blizzard Strix Flyer for you. And then to wrap things up, pick number 3, Smoke Shroud. So pretty solid there, green and blue. He does end up green-blue. Let's look at the final deck for you. Plenty of 2 drops here, double Mother Bear, 3 Smoke Shroud, Collector Oof, Winter's Rest, 1 Eye Kite there, 3 Frostwallers. So what do you make of this one, Eduardo?
If you're playing Spore Frog main deck and there isn't a Genesis, it probably was a train wreck at some point. One of the problems that Calcano had is deciding to be in blue and open to either Snow or Ninjas. The upstream of the draft was both.
Yeah.
2 players with Edgar on Ninjas and Christian Hawk going, like, there's Ninjas, so I'll go Snow. What happens to Calcano? The dregs.
Yeah, and he went 1 and 2, so he did partially salvage it. And look, it is super important because he won his last round. He was 0 and 2, won the last round, and that means because he came in at 7-1, he's now 8-3, and that 3 is the important bit because it's the 4th loss that really sets you back and basically means you're very close to elimination from top 8 contention. So well done, Chris, for winning that last round. Potentially huge as we head now back into Modern.
All right, well, let's continue our journey around our feature match table, and we are heading to Bernardo Santos. Bernardo Santos, you might remember the Magic Online Championship earlier this year. Let's take a look at the first pack that he opened. Here you go. What would you take here? Well, he decided on Savage Swipe. Pretty efficient removal spell. Let's move ahead to pick number 2. In this, he switches colors a little bit, but once again, of course, a powerful card. We are talking about Modern Horizons, after all, in a regular cohort. All right, let's take a look at what he picks number 3. Once again, removal in Reprobation. All right, well, let's take a look at the final deck. Did he end up white-green? Not indeed. He ended up white-black. We do have an etchings of the Chosen here, a Feaster of Fools at the top end of the curve, but I don't think a lot of people have been having success with this archetype. Eduardo, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised in that pick. Reprobation for me is kind of a low pickup. It's not a card you want in every deck, and I was surprised that he took Reprobation specifically over King of the Pride. King of the Pride tends to actually be really good in black-white because it tends to be the Changeling Go White, one of the Changeling Go White archetypes. So it's something you want access to. You have a irregular cohorts. It's very good with Changeling Outcast, and I think that pick in pick free pack 1 was a big detriment to his deck.
There's so much bounce in this format and sacrifice as well that sometimes that can hold you back. Well, didn't end up well for him. Good record coming in, technically undefeated, 7-0-1. He went 0-2-1. Of course, our 2 undefeated players drawing against each other in that first round of draft.
And that is the only point that the 2 undefeated players managed in draft. So that really compresses the field, for sure. All right, so next round the table is Guillaume Hua Futaba. He said he didn't know what his deck was like because he'd done his first ever draft in this format yesterday. This is what he opened up, and he went pretty straightforward. I'm going to take that Mythic Rare Sword of Truth and Justice. Went into pack 2, got a very nice pickup in Rock's Veteran, the 2/4 down at the bottom there. And then in pick number 3, again at the bottom, it's Artifact Time. It's not quite Masticore, but it is a lesser Masticore. The pick ends up like this. Here's the deck in total. And wow, talk about 2 drops there, Eduardo. There's a ton going on down there.
Yeah, and because Hua Futaba decided to keep the curve low, the thing is Factor Fiction and Ray of Revelation are cards that people don't play as much of because they don't have the time, right? It's an aggressive tempo format. Now, if you keep your curve low like Hua Futaba did, then that does give you that space. It allows you to essentially unload onto the board and then use Ray of Revelation as kind of a reload option. And you know it's kind of coming late. Like if it gets opened, you know you kind of want it. And white-blue has been difficult for a lot of people to figure out, but I think the low to the curve white-blue decks are kind of where you want to draft that archetype.
Okay, 2-1 for Hua Futaba, so he's very much in contention at 9-2 going back into Modern.
All right, next around the table, we're going to take a peek at Allan Andrew and what he put together for us this morning. Remember, he said he drafted a 10 out of 10 Stone Cold draft deck. Let's take a look at pack 1, pick 1. Well, if you're drafting 10 out of 10, well, you better start with the rare, right? Plague Engineer was his pick from this first pack. An excellent card. We've been seeing it show up in Modern as well. Let's move ahead to pack number 2. Out of this, he's staying on color and he's taking a mob, but a few choices in this pack here. In pack number 3, does he stay on message? Well, he expands a little bit. We're going to go with the Alpine Guide here. So is red black the name of the game? Let's take a look at his final deck, and yes, indeed it is. There it is. He called it 10 out of 10. What do you call it, Eduardo?
I don't know if I call it 10 out of 10, but it is a good deck. Nothing special, just mid-range red-black, but a lot of removal, a lot of value. Headlined especially with Seasoned Pyromancer plus Unearth. And for me, as you just have kind of, you can deal with kind of any problem that's arising and have an aggressive game plan that can get rid of blockers, but not by sacrificing cards. You're kind of always keeping card parity, putting pressure on. So I don't know if I'd say 10 out of 10, but it is a very good deck.
I didn't choose the Rakdos Life. The Rakdos Life chose me, Allan Wu, 2-1.
Yeah, so it was 2 out of 3. Wasn't it, actually, in a
yes,
yeah.
in a technically Frank Carsten math sense, it was a 2 out of 3. So we still haven't got a 3-0. That must mean it's Taras Severin. Let's take a look, see whether we're right. Taras Severin opens up this pack and will take the removal with Firebolt, 2 damage to any target, of course. And then the pack that Allan Wu opened still has Urza's Rage in it, so that's what Taras Severin picks second. And then third, after the 2 red cards, well, he gets to move to an Abominable Tree Folk. So green and blue to add to the red. So how does he end up? Does the Abominable Tree Folk make it in? No, in the end, he settles in to red-green with the 3 Igneous Elemental up the top end of the official curve, at least, Eduardo.
Yeah, this is impressive to 3-0 here. No. I mean, the deck is good, but it has to be a specific scenario. As in, if you're facing a bunch of 2 toughness creatures, which there are a lot in the format, then you can really take over. Having access to double Firebolt and double Igneous Elemental does allow you that. But I wouldn't say this is a really powerful deck, honestly. He decided, I think, to put those talismans of creativity for pressure purposes. And it also, because of the Nantuko cultivators, the talismans allowing you to ramp into a quick cultivator that can cycle through your lands and then maybe power up that elemental a little earlier. So it's kind of a weird build, but it kind of works out.
Igneous Elemental, 3 of those at the top, too, is actually pretty strong. The card is a lot better than I'd initially thought when going through the format. And you know what? A lot of people down on red-green heading into this weekend. Here we go, 3-0. And that's a look at our draft roundtable. More Magic coming up in just a minute.